So this story of importation of maize. So already there's a ship that's docked at the port of Mombasa and came from the port of Beira in Mozambique, carrying 10,000 tons of maize. Yesterday, the Kenya Ports Authority confirmed the vessels docked at berth 7, but that by last evening it had not started to offload the maize. According to KPA Principal Communication Officer Haji Masemo, the Kenya Bureau of Standards and Kenya Plant Health Inspectorate Service, KEFIS, will determine the quality of the maize before it's released. She docked today at berth number 7, but it has not started to offload. The 14-day shipping list prepared by the KPA indicates the vessels left Beira on Wednesday last week and arrived at the Kenya waters at the Indian Ocean on Monday. Marine Traffic, the only application that tracks the movement of ships across the globe, indicates the maize could have been loaded at the port of Beira in Mozambique. According to data from government agencies, the country has an annual maize deficit of about 700,000 tons. Wow. Write that somewhere. Annual deficit is 700,000 tons. It fuels through imports from Uganda, Tanzania and other COMESA countries, and Mozambique at 50% tariff. The former National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani had extended the free maize import that was scheduled to expire on May 9th to September 30th. Last week, President William Ruto said in Kuala that the government will import 10,000 tons to cushion Kenyans against hunger. He did not, however, expressly indicate whether the said imports will be GMO or non-GMO maize. Yesterday, Seaforth Shipping Limited, the local ship handler, said it is not ready to release the details of the consignment, adding that KRA and KPA had all the details. The arrival of the maize in Mombasa sparked debate in the country, with MPs from the country's food basket South Rift threatening to censure industrialization CS Moses Kuria. So there's a whole thing that we saw, members of parliament from this maize-growing region saying, look, why are we importing maize? And their issue is not even about GMO primarily. The issue first is importation. Why import maize, yet farmers have maize? A statement that was read by Senator Cherargei of Nandi was that we have maize. You've got to factor in the fact that farmers actually went to great lengths to get very expensive fertilizer and other inputs. They have produced the maize. They have maize. There is already maize in the stores, and there is maize that's going to be harvested in the next couple of weeks. So why start importing maize now? That's a question they're asking. The government, on the other hand, is saying, look, there's a shortage in the market. Part of the reason why there is high prices. Remember, we've just talked about the previous government extending an importation window up to September 30th, right?
Yes.
Why was that importation window opened by the former CS for agriculture and for finance? It's because they needed to meet the deficit, to bridge the deficit in the market. So when the farmers say that they have maize, and the leaders say that there is maize in the country, and then the leaders say that we are about to harvest, and the government says there's a shortage of maize, and the millers are claiming that they are selling unga to us at such high prices because of the high cost of acquiring the maize, whom do we believe?
Okay.
What's the situation?
Can we get back to the one commodity that is actually causing this debate, maize?
Yes.
If we have maize in the country, where is it? Forget the maize that is in the fields, okay? This maize we keep talking about, whether it is 20,000 tons, whether it is 20 million bags, whatever it is, where are they? Where is it? Now, have we experienced a shortage of maize flour in the market? No, we haven't. What we've experienced is the high cost of maize flour. So for there to be a high cost of maize flour, it means, or the supposition is that it's being bought at something expensive. But with this same story, we know of middle-sized and small-scale millers having shut down because they say they do not have enough products, okay? So product that they mill is maize. So it means that this story of maize being adequate, you have to ask, if people have shut down because they don't have maize, is it that the maize isn't available for them to buy, or is it not economical for them to buy it at that price or to mill it? That's phase one. Phase two, there's the issue of the government importing maize and saying that they are allowing this maize to come in duty-free because it's supposed to forestall the shortage. Okay? If it wasn't the government saying this, one perhaps would say, okay, maize is coming into the country. The unfortunate thing is that we have a history of scandals revolving around maize.
Yes.
And it has been with players who are either employees of the government, politicians who have in positions, ministerial positions, people within the structure of authority in the country. So, if this is being mentioned, let's leave the GMO story aside for the time being.
Let's just talk about maize.
Let's just talk about maize.
Okay.
When it comes in, it just raises, unfortunately, more questions. More so against the backdrop of what we're being told it's going to be gazetted in a couple of days, and then lo and behold, boom, as Ndu would say, the maize has arrived. You keep asking, why are there so many gaps in this story? And why is there not... Why don't we hear from the government and say, when we talk about the 20 million bags, they are in this go down and this go down and this go down, and you can go and check and you'll find that we actually have maize there. Now, when there are gaps like this, it means someone is spinning a yarn. There's a tale being told here. And everything that we're hearing is inconclusive. The only thing that is conclusive is that we have a ship that has docked, we know. We know the ship's capacity. We've been told of the deficit that we have. Everything else, can one really verify?
So if there are 20 million bags of maize in the country,
A bit difficult to hide,
20 million bags times 90 kilogram bag is what? Is about 1.8 million tons of maize. Okay? Now, is that even sufficient to bridge a gap
No.
that we have?
How much? Okay, so if we're saying,
'Cause
because what you said was 700,000 tons is a deficit.
Yep.
That's the deficit that the country has to deal with, and so you get imports from Tanzania, Uganda, whatever. So I wonder if we're going to put that against what the uptake by Kenya is on a yearly basis. We don't know. I would have to look at what that number is, but we are saying that there's a deficit of 700,000. Now, if this 10,000 that's coming in is definitely not to bridge the gap. This 10,000 tons that's coming in
This is just one ship.
is nowhere enough to bridge the deficit. And now we're not even talking about deficit. We're talking about a need today, right now. This is also coming off the back of what the NCPP had previously said, that there is no maize in the silos. This was about 6 to 8 months ago. So this was at the back end of 2021 when they had come out and said, there's no maize. We don't have anything. The stock has been depleted. The national food reserves depleted. What does depleted mean? That there's nothing. They said the reserves were empty in what could jeopardize government's efforts to provide relief food to needy Kenyans. Remember, this drought situation had started a while ago. We're not talking about a today issue. So when you're asking where is the maize, the cereals board definitely doesn't have it. And this is a year before that when they were turning away farmers who had come to their gates and said, look, will you buy from us and store? And they said, no, our silos are full. A year after that, they said, actually, no, we've now depleted everything we do not have. Farmers were unable to deliver to them because clearly they didn't have. So I know that this is a sensational conversation. It is emotional because people are talking about protectionism and people are talking about et cetera, et cetera. But the truth of the matter is that here we have to deal with raw black and white facts. If we are saying that the protection of farmers is paramount in all of this, yes, we get it. And if we're also saying on one hand that the maize is there, right? Bring it. Because are we saying that today, if the maize is available, that the government, through the ministry, will not mop up that maize from farmers? They will not buy it and put it in the board and put it in the side in the barns?
One of the concerns that's been expressed is the costs of locally produced maize. Now, if you open the floodgates and you allow this other maize that's coming in also duty-free, or if in the case of maize coming from Mozambique, it's coming at 50% duty, tariffs in the Comesa region. And now if you open the window and you allow them to come duty-free, basically they're coming duty-free.
Sure.
It's going to be cheaper than the maize that's been produced by local farmers. Now, the fear is that who's going to buy this maize from a local farmer that is costing X more than the
Okay.
maize that is coming from Mr. So-and-so who's imported the maize and they have it in the silo.
And now this, which makes perfect sense. But the side from which government would argue is, all right, then in this case, where there is no food, what do we do? Can we really wait until February when you're saying this bumper harvest that you will expect so that we will have more maize moving, or we'll have more produce moving in the market for the government to then be able to mop it up? Do we wait?
There's a planning problem here, because the National Cereals and Produce Board, one of the things that they're supposed to do is not just store maize. They're supposed to buy a lot of maize when there's a glut.
They're supposed to forecast.
Yes, that's the whole point. They're supposed to focus. And the understanding was that they would buy when there's a glut, pay a good price to the farmers, and wait when the prices get better, sell it to the millers directly. Okay? But what has been happening in this country is they sell it to brokers, who then sell it to millers. So the price just keeps doing a thing for you. If they don't have enough storage capacity, have we ever heard of a story where they've increased storage capacity around the country? Because they keep saying they are full. Do we know, or have we ensured that we have enough storage to store the maize that is produced in the country, and to even be able to keep crops from other places should we need to have storage? Talking about food security, that story one never hears of. One hears of maize rotting in storage, one hears of storage capacity being full, but the story of capacity being increased because the population of this country keeps increasing, one doesn't hear those stories. Now, from a planning perspective, this is a tired old story. What is it that has been done to increase our capacity? What stopped the government from buying maize from other countries that had bumper crops at a very cheap price and storing it?
Okay.
Again, food security. All these things are not things that I have come up with. These are things that the government knows, National Cereals and Produce Board know, and these are things they should be doing. They know.
There's a big forecasting problem. There's a huge planning and strategy issue, that's for sure. It does exist, and everybody really then needs to pull their socks up in terms of how that's going to be handled in the future. If you're getting to a place where Kenya is then food secure and then food sustainable, majority of that work is planning. It's not about even the hard produce being available. The majority of the work, in order to get you from a place where you're food insecure to food secure or stable, is planning. It's the work that needs to be done. However, right now, today, with the ship that has docked, okay, with the evident problem that there is, the question is, can Kenya survive the next 3 months? Because what the farmers are telling us today, look, put aside the games that might be being played, the power plays that might be happening behind the scenes. Can Kenya survive December, January, until the end of February for the forecasted harvest without this injection of external maize? Number one. Number two, the maize that they're saying available, if it is not going to do a Houdini move and just show up, if it is not going to show up from the farmers who are saying this one is available, buy it from us, if it is not going to show up, then is it not prudent of the government today to do everything they can to get sources of maize to feed Kenyans?
The individuals involved, how will they make money if they follow that logic?
Where is the money going to be made if there is no, even the 20K you're talking about, where is it?
This is
to
contrived.
me, we have to deal with the right now. If we're talking about two simple things, number one, there's drought. You've not been able to harvest in the way you normally would that would feed your people, at least to a certain level. Number two, there's what you had in storage does not exist. It is not there anymore. And you need a solution today. People are saying food is too expensive, the little that there is available. And it's going to get to a point where that which is available is going to run out. So what do? Let's be practical. For 3 months, the harvest is not going to happen for another 3 months. From what the farmers have told us, they said, look, let us wait till February. Protect your farmers. Let's wait. Okay, what are people going to eat between now and then?
You know, if a situation exists such as this one and it's perennial, it can't be accidental. Because we're talking about things that the government knows better than we do. We know of papers that have been written. We know of plans that have been made. We know structures that have existed. And if despite all these things, we are still having this same discussion, there are people who've contrived and ensure that this is the situation. It's chaotic, it's problematic, and that's where they thrive. Because the order that we are speaking of is more like a fairy tale in this instance. Something that is a staple food in a country, year in, year out, we're talking about a similar problem. And somehow the solution to this problem is always import this or the other. Somehow. You have an entire industry that is supposed to be in the production of sugar, collapses, and somehow we are always importing sugar, and yet the demand for sugar has not gone down in this country. I mean, there are things that defy logic. So when it defies logic, you have to ask yourself the question, is this a force of nature or is it a force of mankind?
Is it something that's been...
Yes, is it something that has been created, and is it a situation that has been encouraged by others because they want it to be so?
One of the MPs who is on the forefront of this particular matter is the MP for Pokot South, Honorable David PKOSING, who now joins us on the line. Mheshimiwa, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
How are you today?
I'm good.
It's good to hear from you, Mheshimiwa. I know you have said that if Moses Kuria does not do something by today, you will start collecting signatures
Absolutely.
for his removal. Let's take a couple of steps back, though. Let's understand this issue. What is the main complaint by the the maize growing farmers and the leaders?
I don't blame you. Maybe you come from the sugar belt.
No, it's because Titi was just talking about sugar just now.
I am the one who comes from a sugar belt.
All right, fine. Now, listen, my brother. Let me tell you, and let's say the truth. What's going on now in where we come from is that people are harvesting. People are drying maize. People already have maize. When people are harvesting, when people are drying maize, they're drying maize for what? For sale. And to sell to who? Primarily to sell to government.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest buyer
is the government.
From where we come from is government. Through NCBB and so on. And it has been like that since I was born. Now, what is irritating us, what is immoral, and that's why we are calling for impeachment of the reckless Honorable Kuria, is that when the government now is supposed to be planning to buy our maize, they are importing 10 million bags. They are killing farmers, my brother. They are killing this country. Because you know what's going to happen? And you are importing them duty-free. So you bring this maize, GMO or not GMO. And that's my argument, because there are two arguments there. There's an importation and a GMO. But for me, what I'm saying is GMO or not GMO. When you bring them duty-free, my brother, you know what's going to happen, and my sister?
Tell us.
You make our maize to be sold at 1,000 shillings a bag.
Okay.
And yet, we spend, I said yesterday, it's on record, farmers spend 60,850 per acre.
How much again?
Now, 60,800 and 50 shillings per acre. This includes buying the fertilizer, buying the seeds, tilling the land, palliating in Kiswahili, taking care of your maize. You know, when your maize is getting ready, you need some workmen. Other people come and, you know, so all that put together comes about 60,000 shillings per acre. And we estimate to harvest, or farmers are estimating to harvest about 25 bags of 90 kilos of bags of maize.
Per acre.
Per acre.
So government is aware. People have invested that 60,000. Never happens. You want to pour that investment into the drain? No, we can't allow that. That is irresponsible, Minister.
May I ask you, Mheshimiwa? So,
yes.
Obviously, we're looking at seeking to harvest, and from what I understand, we're looking at February for the harvest, isn't it? Around that time?
No. Where are you talking about?
When is the harvest?
You come to Trans-Nzoia. You come to Trans-Nzoia now.
When
it's
is
happening
the harvest?
now?
Okay. Now.
Yes, people are harvesting now. You come to Trans-Nzoia now. Come to Wasingishu now. People are harvesting. People are drying maize.
All right, Mheshimiwa, this is the question.
Yes.
Are we saying that there is maize available for Kenya today?
Yes.
Okay. If that
Yes.
is the case, and if this conversation is happening, are we seeing a situation whereby maize is going to the barns, maize is going to the millers? Millers, on one hand, are saying they have nothing to process.
No, millers are lying to the minister. Millers are behaving like cartels, and they're listening to me now as I talk to you. Millers are blackmailing the minister to make the minister believe and tell people that there's no maize.
Right.
And let me tell you, let me even build you the story. What is the context of this story? The context of this story is GMO. Did GMO discussion begin today? No. It began a long time ago. And therefore, this is a different topic. This somebody else is pushing. And I say this, and we will name those multinationals at the right time. This is a multinational business. It's not the interest of people of Kenya. And that's why we're asking, with the MPs from this region, we're asking, whose interest is the minister pushing this agenda? It is the interest of multinationals. It is not the interest of our farmers in Kenya. It is not. And that is why Parliament is ready to take Moses Kuria home.
Honorable PKOSING, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
When was the last time the government had opened the window for duty-free import of maize?
Yes.
When did it last do this?
I have to check the records. I can't tell you off head now.
Our records indicate that the CS for National Treasury, the former CS Ukur Yatani, had extended this up to end of September.
End of?
September.
This year.
September this year?
Yes.
It was from May to September.
So around this time, there was a shortage of maize in the country. So between September and November, was there any harvesting that was taking place?
You see, when you are asking those questions, my brother.
Yes.
I will say that you are becoming academic. You are becoming theoretic. The context upon which we are debating this thing is farmers at the moment. Let us not say about November or September. We are becoming academic. The truth is, and the farmers listening to your radio, because this is one of the most popular radio now being listened in Kenya. The farmers listening now are harvesting. They want to sell maize. So don't tell us about November or September. The context, and that is why we are firm to defend our people. We are elected by people to defend people. We don't defend or represent trees.
Yeah.
We represent people in Parliament and particularly National Assembly. My brother, people want to sell maize. So where will you want our farmers to sell maize, my good brother? Where?
How much would you like?
Give me where they will sell.
How much would you like to sell the maize for?
We did math. We did some mathematics. And I can send you that one. We did some mathematics. I asked farmers to do mathematics. And the mathematics is, the fair price is 4,500.
4,500 per 90 kilogram bag.
Yes. Yes, but what's available now is between 3,200 and 3,600.
That's currently available.
Yes.
That is what the market is demanding. But then if I look at the cost, at what you've just factored in as your total cost of production per acre, 60,850, and you're producing 25 bags of 90 kilograms per acre, then your cost of production per bag is 2,434.
Yes.
Why do farmers want to earn double their cost of production?
You see, if you look at that earning, my brother, if you're earning, let's say, for example, that 2,000 per bag, that is an annual earning.
Okay.
So put yourself and say, in 12 months, you're earning 2,000. How much per month? Oh, my good. It is nothing. And a farmer that depends on that for his health or his health of his children and the school fees and so on. I mean, there's myriad of things, my brother. There's not a job. It's only farming. So, and then again, we are also talking against a backdrop of this government was selling an idea, which is guaranteed minimum returns.
Yes.
That is what they were actually selling, and Kenyan seems to have been convinced.
And voted for them.
And voted for them. Regardless of how the result came, we have a government. We want to respect it. But now, what happened? They are now moving from guaranteed minimum returns
to open market.
and they are saying that farmers are hoarding maize. You remember? You listen to what the leader of majority said yesterday in Parliament.
Yes.
That is a different language. In fact, Kenyans are saying, and these are the people who are doing campaigns. They have changed. In fact, less than 3 months, they have completely changed.
Is there any, Moshiba, looking at that argument also, when they say that farmers would be hoarding maize in order to be able to drive then the price up, would there be any kind of reason to that at all?
If there are no prices, what do you do, madam?
You
cannot recover. If you cannot recover your investment, so what do you do?
But 3,200 is not a loss.
It's a big loss. That's what I'm telling you that, and I'm telling you, what is that? If you turn it in a year, you in a month, or take it monthly returns, there's nothing, peanuts. And take yourself as that farmer who has no job, like you people having a job that you're going to be paid. That man is not paid, or that woman is not paid. And I'll tell you this: we are talking like that. You think that is a debate? People think that is theoretical. It is going to cost some people. It is so bad on the ground, my brother. Things on the ground are different.
All right.
It is very painful.
Mheshimiwa, there's something that I'd like to ask. Huh?
Yes.
As Mheshimiwa who comes from a region which we refer to as the breadbasket of this country.
Yes.
Would you say the government has adequate storage to take in all the maize that is produced in this country?
I will say yes. Because if you look at, you take an example of, for example, West Pokot, we have a depot in Kapenguria. We have another one in Kacheliba.
Yes.
We have another one in Sigor.
Yes.
And basically they are empty now. So if you take an example of all other places like Trans Nzoia, Uasin-Gishu, Bungoma, coming to Nandi, coming to Nakuru, you will almost say the same thing.
Okay.
Nothing in the stores.
The reason why I'm asking this question is, if we have sufficient storage, because I'd raised the question earlier, then
yes.
As Waheshimiwa, should there not be a further discussion of ensuring that the government actually does have reserves, literal reserves, that are there for such a time in storage?
That is a very fundamental question, my brother. But we can ask it differently.
Yes.
And it is provided for in law. There's something called strategic reserve.
Yes.
The government must have 3 million bucks in our strategic reserve.
Yes.
Right? And that is, that is not something that you wake up one morning and say, hey, sorry, we don't have 3 million bucks. No. No. It is provided for in law. That, of course, our consumption is about 40 million bucks. And we almost harvest that one in Kenya. Right? We almost harvest that one in Kenya. But what you need to have in store called strategic reserve. We have even an organization in charge of strategic reserve. I don't know whether you can remember this one, which was being chaired by former minister from Trans Nzoia. Wekesa.
Yep.
Can you imagine? It is so important that we have a parastatal in, taking care of our strategic reserve. 3 million bucks. You don't need to sell that one, even to anybody. So you cannot tell me that the government has just woken up one morning and say, hey, look here, we don't have maize. No. This is a lie, my brother. This is a game.
I want to thank you very much.
And this can be interpreted as an inside game.
We want to thank you for
being pushed.
speaking to
I don't know why you people in the media are not asking who is pushing this agenda.
And I want to ask you that question directly, because many of you are alluding to there being a game afoot. What is this mischief, Mheshimiwa David Kosing?
The mischief is this, and it can come from questions. Why is it being pushed like it is do or die? Whose interest? You can't tell me that we don't have food reserve. That's provided for in law. That is a responsible government. So that aside, why are they pushing like this? Number two, why did we open GMO without public participation? What happened? Just all of a sudden somebody say, okay, we have opened and the GMOs come home. And in the process of GMO discussion, you are saying, let us bring these 10 million bags of GMO. and it's going to be duty free. I mean, whose interest is this, my brother? I mean, you can't. You see, Kenyans and our intelligence is not stupid. We can see something is happening.
Mr. Kosing.
And now to couple with
Mr.
our
Kosing.
farmers have harvested, they have the maize. Why don't you take the maize? And when you're doing like that, then you can 1 + 1 is equal to 2, my brother.
All right, let me ask whether this is true, Mr. Kosing.
Yes, sir.
The announcement of the government lifting the ban on GMO was made after a cabinet meeting chaired by the president himself.
Yes.
The announcement of Kenya importing maize in this window was made first by the CS for trade,
Yes.
but was also repeated by the president himself last week while he was
Yes.
at the coast.
Yes.
Is that true? Is that 1
That-
+ 1?
The thing is, it is suspicious that people are moving this fast. You know, by the way, do you know that this government is hardly 3 months
Yep.
in office? So what has just happened all of a sudden that things are moving too fast? What is going on? Whose interest is this? What is going on? Whose interest is this?
Will you tell us?
And even when we have maize, we are thinking that this is an interest of multinationals.
Okay.
Yes, multinationals
What-
are pushing an agenda
what
to
would they
open Kenya
have?
for market.
What would be the
What would they have
benefits?
on the government
Yeah.
to push the government to actually bend over backwards? Like you're saying, the government is made up of politicians who just recently campaigned on a certain campaign promise. And now you say that they are completely doing an about turn. What is it that these alleged multinationals that would have on a government to force them their hand like this?
What we might be thinking, we ourselves as politicians and leaders, is that there might have been some talks behind the scenes. What Kenyans, commonly saying, nyuma ya tent. It's true. Now, nyuma ya tent is coming to inside the tent. And they are being pushed and say, look, you know what, but we agreed on something. Why, guys, why are you not doing what we are supposed or what we agreed? Because you can ask yourself.
Because yours
what
was not
has
the only
changed?
agreement.
Pardon?
You were not the only one who was agreed with.
Yours was not the
Yeah,
only
no.
agreement.
They are so, we don't know, even when people are talking, you don't know they are talking to who. Until when they are being pushed as they are now being pushed. Because we are suspecting these people who are talking behind the tent, nyuma ya tent.
David Kosing.
And let me tell you, it will come out. It will, in fact, the owners, let me tell you, the owners will come out. Yes.
David Kosing, Pokot South MP, thank you very much for speaking to us. We hope to have you in the studio soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. So you've heard what Mheshimiwa Kosing is saying, that they've done their math, and a farmer in the North Rift is spending about 60,850 shillings
Per acre.
to produce maize.
And the number of
And they
bags
harvest 25 bags,
of 90 kilograms.
90 kilograms in that acre. Right? Mathematic. This one is going into fertilizer,
Everything.
into seeds, into plowing tractor, into
Irrigation
kupalilia,
if you need.
into weka watchman hapo, security, into everything. So price per bag then comes down to 2,434. Farmers
Costs.
want to sell at a minimum of 4,500 a bag. The market is asking for 3,200 shillings. So farmers are saying, why sell? This is just going to be a loss. Is that making sense?
Farmers are saying it would have been like, we're doing this for
At least
you.
I need to make 2,000 bob.
Let me make something.
I need to make 100%, sort of.
It's a business for them. It's business.
Yeah, but 100%.
So who dictates how much a farmer can make when their inputs have been 1, 2, 3? Who dictates in any business how much you can then charge up as per what you put on top?
You
Does the
decide your
market
price.
dictate- you decide,
You
your
decide
price.
your price. The market decides how much it wants to buy. Then you meet somewhere.
Okay, so what we are saying here is that the farmers are saying this is what they're going to sell at. It is very clear that any maize that is imported is going to retail at a lower price. It is.
Yep.
Is there an impasse between government and farmers on pricing? Is that the problem? Is it a pricing issue, or is it an availability issue that we are dealing with right now?
We are dealing with a multiplicity of things.
So it's many things.
Yes, and at the heart of it is the NCPB, because
there's nothing there.
After we had a problem in 2009, because we had a maize scandal then, the World Bank came in and looked at that situation, and they actually conducted the research, and their findings were particularly interesting. Among the things that we keep talking about, which they also raised then, was that the government should consider restructuring the National Cereals and Produce Board, restructuring it so that many things that they do and which happen and which contribute to these prices we're talking about also takes place. But they also said that the tariffs that the government likes slaving on imports, things that are directly related to maize, because it is staple in this country, not just be reviewed, should be lowered. Now, if you were to look at that report, which people in government understand better than we do, you would have to ask the question, okay, moving from one problem to another, 2009 and now, we're talking about 13 years hence. What has been done to ensure that some of these recommendations were looked into and probably implemented in a manner that would suit our circumstances?
Yeah.
What do we have in place? Remember the 3 million bags strategic storage. Okay, what about adding to that storage, when you open the window, buying maize from countries that have bumper harvests and are willing to sell it at a lower price? I mean, the alternatives to ensuring that there's food in the country, it's not as though there's a deficit. There is no deficit. But the deficit seems to be something that we experience when a deliberate action is taken by some individuals to ensure that this situation that we are currently in is maintained. So that anything else and everything extraneous that they want to put in play can be put in play.
There's a reasoning that's given on every side.
Yes.
Look at what the government, in maybe not so many words, is saying, look, we need to provide this thing at a price that people can afford. We're going to bring it from outside because farmers are asking us to buy this thing at 4,500 shillings. It's a bit expensive. That's one side. These guys are saying, come on, we toiled over this thing. The inputs cost X amount. This is what we have agreed that we're going to sell it for. It is available. People are sending us pictures right now and saying, look, I don't know. Currently harvesting, and politicians are talking. We haven't even shelved the maize. It's right here. We have it. That's just an example of saying, we have this maize. Why can't you buy it from us? Government is saying, we can't buy it at that rate and it's not enough. So what exactly is that foot? What exactly is afoot here?
Remember this structure that we speak of. Many people who produce maize in this country sell directly to consumers, not necessarily to the National Cereals and Produce Board. But within that structure, understand, we have briefcase farmers, people who don't own an inch of land, and yet they present themselves as farmers. We have brokers. We have people who present themselves as millers and do not own a single factory, a single unit that actually produces this. Now, when you look into the play of things, you have maize, you have all these individuals playing in this sector here. Guess who bears the brunt of it? The consumer.
It's the consumer.
Yes.
The biggest buyer of maize is actually the government.
It is the government.
So most of the people who are selling at farm gates, they are selling to some middleman who will aggregate and then take it to the NCPB.
It ends up there.
It ends up at the NCPB. So there are very many farmers who are out just selling their farm gate, just chukua mahindi peleka, and then it ends up at the. Remember the latest scandal that we had surrounding the NCPB was around how much money is actually being paid to farmers.
Yes.
Actual farmers for the purchase of maize. And the whole issue was there are people who claim to have supplied maize to the NCPB and they are being paid money. And you look at those people and you ask them, you have supplied X thousand bags of maize.
From?
Where is the farm?
Yes, exactly. Where's the, yes.
And there was no farm to show for very many of these. And that's where now the issues come in. Who exactly is playing the game here? Because if the farmer wants to sell their maize at 4,500, are they saying that we're selling the maize at 4,500 to the NCPB? Or is the farmer saying, I'm willing to sell at 3,200, you go and take it to the NCPB at whatever price?
Yes.
What exactly is happening? This message here by Kibiche Karunei Teigut, who says, I am both a maize farmer and a trader. Currently, we are harvesting. These are politicians talking. We haven't even started shelling the maize. It's a coincidence that Bill Gates came to Kenya, Ruto lives for Korea, and shipment docks in Mombasa.
Conspiracy.
Stretch it. all the way. The point is that, yes, they're harvesting, but they haven't started shelling. So it's not yet.
So it's not ready.
It's not ready to go to the NCPB tomorrow. But then, is it a push, a negotiation that this is how much we'd like the NCPB to buy the maize
From
at?
us.
If NCPB is buying the maize at this price and the millers are saying we cannot buy maize from NCPB at this price, then somebody has got to bridge the gap. And who's the somebody? You and I, taxpayer.
You see, this gap that we speak of, that's what the strategic reserve is supposed to, this is where they're supposed to come in. So even this discussion I was saying, whether it is next month or the month before, the strategic reserve is supposed to fill this gap as we wait for the farmers to do their thing so that their maize is available. Who controls the tariffs of the inputs that make the price of maize high? It is not the farmer.
It is the government.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who is the biggest buyer of the maize? It is the government. There is a certain member of parliament who right now is supposed to be in jail. And the reason why he's gone to jail or he was pronounced guilty is again matters relating to
Supply,
This supply
to
of
NCPB.
maize.
precisely the amount of money, the maize, and the
Yeah.
story. Remember, I've told you that even in the sector, the sugar sector where I live, there are people who would collect checks for sugar cane, don't own a farm, has never supplied any cane to the factory in their lives. So, when these things are allowed, and it isn't as though the factories don't know what's happening, they do know. It isn't as though NCPB doesn't know what's happening, they do. Many people could argue that they are complicit in this entire saga and the problem that we are now facing. Because in the absence of their participation, how would this particular game be possible? They have to be complicit.
Very many things are happening here. And I'm also seeing somebody who's saying they're a farmer, but not in the what is considered the grain basket of the country, in Taita Taveta. And how much is it costing them to produce maize? So let me tell you from what they've written. He says, bush clearing, 1,800. Put calculator on your Samsung Galaxy Z Flip phone.
Thank you very much.
Bush clearing, 1,800. Plowing with tractor, 3,000. Planting using cow plow, 1,800. Seeds, 1,500. Fertilizer, 3,000. Plowing, weeding by hand when maize has grown, 3,000. The rain is free. Even if you lease the land, it will cost 7,500 per acre per season, or 15,000 per year. Total that?
Do you want me to do with the 7,000 or the 15,000?
With the 15,000 per year.
So that comes to 21,900.
So it says in Taita Taveta, this is how much it's costing to produce maize in an acre. Not the 60,000 that is now compared to on the other side. So very many arguments and counter arguments on this particular issue.
So there's no one similar thread. That's why it gives rise to this, conversation about there being not a game afoot, games afoot. That there are many things going on, unfortunately, to the detriment of the Kenyan who is waiting for the staple to be delivered at a price that they can afford. Because that is it. Availability, a sustainable source at a price that you can afford, which is what Kenyans are looking for. And for your staple, that is not too much to ask. But the games of which people are playing, how much can get into my pocket, government then trying to make sure that the prices are at a place that they can manage, and those who are in the business of the thing wanting to make sure that they can get, a decent wage for their sweat. Everybody's playing this game here, but at the same time, who is being honest? And the one that is being honest is the one who is waiting to put the food on the plate.
That's the only one. This whole 1 hour conversation, I'm still as confused as we were at the beginning.
In the beginning.
Yeah. I don't know what's better. Anyway, keep it here for more conversations. We'd like to continue that conversation on social media. Please share your comments and your thoughts on this. Yeah, should the government halt the importation of maize to allow for farmers to harvest and then to purchase that maize from farmers and then bridge the gap after we know how much our farmers have produced and at what price, or should they not?